You're now vibing with Rita Shadwell here on Undaground Radio. How many times have you questioned your value in a situation, thinking maybe you don't bring enough to the table, wondering if you'll get the respect and shout-outs like others? If you've had to question your value, you could be sitting at the wrong table. When you're sitting amongst like-minded people who see your worth, it's never about being questioned, but instead, how can you and how can we make it together? Don't be so hard on yourself and your contributions. Take a moment, breathe, and be still. Look around at the people at your table, but this time take away the emotions and ask yourself, is this where I'm supposed to be? You're vibing with me, Rita Shadwell, on this Wednesday night, and we are talking about our children. I think that's an awesome subject to be talking about, and I think that's an awesome way to just celebrate them. You know, I love being around children because you learn so many different things. Their minds think differently as adults. They are more, I don't know, their thoughts just kind of expand, and they're not just neutral, you know what I mean? They don't understand the risk of certain things, and they don't understand, whether an opportunity or whether something can or cannot happen. It's like a form of fantasy. So it's good to conversate around them and learn their little perspectives and how their minds think. Because children are born into this world, capable of understanding everything that goes around them. And they're also capable of kind of making certain decisions. Now, I'm not saying that their decisions are safe and they're right about everything that they're saying, but I just find it interesting how they think about certain things and just like their little minds. Like, I remember when my son was around 7 years old, and, he said, every year that your birthday comes is a new chance for you to start over. Now, though that may be something small to some, I thought that's pretty awesome that he feels that way. He said, every chance that you have a birthday is a new chance for you to start over. Now, I'm not saying every year you have to wait until that time to make a grand decision in your life, but just looking at the idea that every time you have a birthday is a sense of you being reborn and you can start over. And that's the key word, starting over. You can create your own beginning. You can create a new beginning from what you've had from the years before. And that was just something I learned from my son at 17 years old. But they're, in addition to them saying little comments like that, of course they're silly. Of course, isn't it awesome how you can sit back and just laugh at them, at certain things that they're saying and doing and how they interact with each other. I mean, they actually show their emotions. If they're tired of a game, or if they're tired of something on television, or if they're tired of a puzzle they can't understand, they're going to show you the exact emotion that I feel like that's where probably emojis probably come from or should originate from or possibly be created. Their little emoji faces when they can't figure out something, they give the true reaction of how that expression should look. And it's so funny how they can just, being babies or being little toddlers or whatever, and then they have these little outbursts and they're just so frustrated they just can't get it right. And, of course our minds have already developed, so, we can fix whatever it is. And to them, we're their hero. It's like, wow, you fixed that. You've done that. And so they think so highly of us and they just think that we're awesome. And that's why it's so important to just be a safety net for your children and just be close to them and establish a relationship with them. Now, I know, they're growing now. And if you have any children like mine, they're constantly growing. So at this time in their life, they're trying to understand their bodies are changing, their bodies are developing. You might find all kinds of things in their room showing you that their minds and bodies is developing. But don't shut that down on them. Let them be, because you want them to be so comfortable with you that you will be able to have a relationship with them, an open relationship with them, so they can talk about anything and everything that's going on with them. So, like I said, I got boys, so I already kind of have an idea what's to be expected. And I've heard stories from people of what to be expected from little boys trying to figure out themselves. So, but at the same time, if my children have questions about that, or, questions about girls or, whatever, because they're learning their identity. I just want to be close to them to where they can talk to me and, go from there. I know I had a situation where, excuse me, I had a situation where, I actually had to talk to my son because he was kind of curious about certain things or whatever. But, I told him, one thing, just don't lie to me about how you're feeling. Don't lie to me about what you're doing or anything like that, because there's going to be a time when you're going to need me to believe you. But because you have a history of lying to me, it's going to make that difficult. So don't ever mess that relationship up between us. And I also tell him, if you're curious about certain things, it's okay. I told him I was a child once, so I know how it is to be curious about your body and just growing up and just, just trying to figure out things. It's okay. But at the same time, just remember that you still have, you know, a duty to just be civil, you know what I mean? Don't let that get you out of control, you know what I'm saying? And don't let that take you from what you really need to be focusing on. And so I just kind of just kept talking to him just so that he knows it's okay to be curious. Now, I don't know everything about little boys. I really don't. Sometimes I'm kind of surprised that just what I'm seeing happens with little boys. But I tell you, for the love of God, how in the world do they constantly pee on the freaking toilet, man? How do they, I mean, do they just go in the bathroom? Do they go in the bathroom and just say, you know what, I'm just going to stare at the wall, and if it finds the toilet hole, it finds the toilet hole. If it don't find it, and if it finds the floor, then that's fine with me. But I'm just going to go in here, stare at the wall. Maybe I should count the spots on the wall or whatever decor is around. I should look at that. But I'm not going to look at this toilet because that's against the rules, and wherever it goes, I swear my little boys, when they go to the bathroom, I think they're the ones filling up the tank behind the tank on the toilet. I don't think water's coming from the outside because the pee just be everywhere sometimes. I'd be like, what in the world? How did you get it back there? I'm in my room and a little bit touch my ears. So I'm like, what in the world? Like, how is it going all across the house? Just get control of yourself. God dog it, get control of yourself. Don't keep going there and be civil and stop doing whatever you're doing. Gee whiz. But little boys, they just be, it's just amazing to know that this is how little boys start and grow up to be men. Now, I don't know whether you do what you do in the bathroom, if you're still doing the slip and slide on the toilet, then as a grown man, you're wrong, man. You're wrong. You need to get it right. Get it right and tell your sons how to get it better. Okay? All right. Well, I'm now that we got that under control, because I don't want to talk about it long. I don't want to talk about, your drips, your little drips or whatever. Okay, that's enough. But anyway, handle yourselves, okay? Little boys grow up to be little men. I love y'all. Love you. Okay, you vibing with me, Rita Shadoyle. Stay tuned. We got more music. Thank you for listening to me on this Wednesday night here on Attic Underground Radio. Tell your kids you love them. Tell them you love them. Just give them a big hug. Tell them you love them. Don't forget to love them tonight. If they're not already in the bed, tell them you love them before you go to bed. Practice telling them you love them. Give them so many hugs. Don't let them find it uncomfortable as an adult to get a hug from their mom or dad in public, wherever. Some of them may flinch a little bit, but get to them anyway. God dog it. Just hug them and just let their little arms just fold up like a little bird inside of an egg. Just squeeze. Just squeeze them tight as you can, and especially for the fact that they have went to school and come back home to you. And again, in the news and everything else, we've seen how so many people's lives have changed with them taking their kids to school, and just things have changed. Things have just changed for them. So be so fortunate and grateful when you see your children coming from school. Give them a hug and just tell them you love them, no matter how big they are, because they need to hear that. They constantly need to hear that and be reminded of that. Growing up for me, our grandparents raised us, me, my sisters and brothers. And so I was very fortunate enough to just learn life through a different perspective other than the school and just from other people. My grandparents, because they were from a different generation, their principles and traditions were very simple, and they were more so focused about learning the way of life. My grandmother, she was, before raising us, and I hope I'm saying this correctly. If I'm saying this incorrectly, family members, please reach out to me so that I can correct it. But my grandmother was actually a school teacher. She was a school teacher, or either wanted to be a school teacher. But I'm very sure. I don't know what I guess talking about her just kind of makes me kind of, get a little excitement to where I'm not sure. But I'm sure she was a school teacher. But because my grandmother raised me, my sisters and brothers, it was 5 of us, she stopped being a teacher and raised us and start working in a mill. And I know if my grandmother, well, not if, but I know if, when my grandmother was a teacher, I know she was a wonderful teacher, because I remember just how she took her time with us, and just, the rules that she implemented. And like I said, they had stricter guidelines, but, you get a better understanding of that as you get older. Of course, when you're younger, it's be like, I'm tired, grandmama. I'm tired. She wake you up at 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and we got to go cook breakfast, for the guys in the house. And, the girls will get up before the guys, but the girls will get up. We have to go in the kitchen and cook breakfast and just have the kitchen cleaned. And, she just made sure we did that. And then on Saturdays, we had to clean the house. And when I say clean the house, my grandmother had us cleaning the house, wiping the walls, cleaning the blinds. We had to dust not just the shelf, but the objects on the shelf. And you better pick it up. You better pick it up. Don't try to clean around it now. Okay? Don't try to clean around it. No, pick that item up, wipe under it, wipe it. Matter of fact, take it to the bathroom, wipe it, flush the toilet, everything. We just had to make sure that the objects was clean and make sure that we put everything back. Like, there was no sitting around in the living room and watching TV all day. No, get outside. But grandma, it's hot outside. We'll stand in the shade, okay? Grandma, we thirsty. Here, get some drink from this cooler. We're going to put this cooler outside. Y'all save y'all cups. Get you some water out of that cooler. You're not going to be running in and out the house. But you couldn't understand that as you older. I mean, when you were younger, you'd be like, man, they really don't like us or something. They got us doing this. I'm telling y'all, when we washed clothes, when it was summertime and we had to wash clothes, we didn't use the washing machine downstairs. And the dryer, what dryer? Sun is the dryer. The sun is the dryer. In the summertime, we had to wash our clothes through an old-fashioned washing machine. I'm talking about that. It was a white, excuse me, it was a white washing machine, and my granddad had kind of, bolted it down on some wood to where it wouldn't go anywhere, and he would hook the hose pipe up to it, the water hose to it, and fill that baby up. We put our clothes in there, and you can just watch it going around. Just watch it, because it was the Ringer washing machine. So it was white, and then after it finished washing, there was no spin cycle. Oh no, no spin cycle on that thing. When it stopped, we had to take our clothes, take them through the Ringer, and, move whatever buttons, or not even, it probably wasn't a button. I can't even remember right now, but I do know when you put your clothes in there, especially them jeans, you put your clothes through there and the water just gushes out and just dry it. And I'm going to tell you, the thing you need to do is make sure you don't get your fingers close to it, because if you get your fingers close to it, your fingers will go in it and mash, and it will pinch your fingers, and you can get your hands hurt. And I think one of my relatives, actually, that happened to them. They were wringing out some clothes and they put their hands through it, and in between their fingers kind of split a little bit. Don't that sound painful? I know, but that didn't stop my grandma from telling us to do that. So yeah, we was like, probably around 7, 8, 9, well, probably about, I'm going to say about 13, 14, 15. I know for me, around that time, washing clothes outside, and then we hang them outside. Let me tell y'all something. I know it's hot. But it was just as hot back then on some days. And you know when them insects get too hot, they be trying to find shade. Where you think they gonna go to? Your clothes is hanging out on the laundromat. I'm sorry. Your clothes is hanging out on the clothesline because we had to hang our clothes up, and our grandmama would show us how to hang up our clothes, the shirts, the jeans, together but separate. You know what I mean? She showed us how to hang up our socks and the underwear. You know, we took those in the house. But and some of them, you know what I'm saying, depending on us who was brave enough, you know, we put them on the clothesline. But the insects, the insects would they be so hot, you know what I'm saying? They be trying to get shade, and then you try to get your clothes off the clothesline, and you run into spider webs, and you run into little tiny bugs, little beetles and stuff. I can't stand them things. But that's what would go on, you know, when we had to hang up our clothes. It was a whole experience. I mean, we had the tin tub and everything. The tin tub for our clothes, like I'm telling you, it was, now looking back, awesome experience. You know, I'm so grateful that I was able to experience, because you know why? My mom experienced that and my grandma experienced that. That's how they did their clothes. So I was fortunate enough to be able to see kind of what it was like in their time. So thank you so much, Grandma, for that. I love you and miss you dearly. But stay tuned. We got more music on Attic Underground Radio, and you're vibing with me, Rita Shadway. Stay tuned.